I am determined that this is going to be the last life update episode I film and record in this office, in this house. It's one of those situations where whenever you speak to anyone you know, every time you speak to them, they're like, any news, any news, any news. Like people have been asking me and going, well, any news on the house? Like, have you got a date yet? Have you got this yet? And I'm like, no, no, I've not. And some people ask me and then they go, you know what, you don't have to talk about it if it's stressing you out, because I know that's an annoying question. It's not an annoying question. You're asking because you care. And also, I'm annoyed at the situation. So I am determined, I am manifesting that the next time I record one of these episodes, chin wagging about life, that it will be in our new house. Manifesting it. That is that update because I know that would be the first thing I would be nosy and wondering about if I was listening to this episode. I have a huge like personal share today on like an identity shift that I've realized that I've made recently. You know, when you realize that you've changed and you've shifted, but because it's happened so gradually and so beautifully and it's unfolded really softly and like under the surface, that I'm now realizing it and had a bit of a wobble about it the other week, had to really hold myself through my tools, my practices. So I want to talk about that today. But first, I do want to talk about Adam's birthday because, oh my God, it was so funny. I posted a snippet of the story on Instagram, and a few of you mentioned it, like you were laughing about it. So, for context, we got our rescue dog Bella, our second dog, last August, literally August bank holiday weekend. And so that meant that last year, Adam's birthday last year, because his birthday is the 8th of October, we had only had her just over a month. And she lulled us into this false sense of security when she first arrived because she was so scared of us and humans in general. She would just sleep when we left the house. And then as she started getting more attached to us, she would be awake and kind of like wondering where we'd gone. And for those of you who don't know, our first dog, Benji, suffers with separation anxiety, and we've done a full 12-month like program with him with a behavioral specialist, like medication, like really extensive training, the lot. And we've got him to a point now where he doesn't like us leaving, but he does let us. Like he will tolerate it, but he will also bark for like 10 minutes sometimes, 15 minutes. And that's him, feeling frustrated that he's not coming with us. But he's not in distress like he used to be. Like he used to be crying. So, and now it's more of like an annoying bark. And it's like if you have a dog, you know your dog's barks. It's sometimes different. Like some barks are like trying to get attention, some barks are like angry, some barks are like upset, like really, really upset. So it's nowhere near that bad anymore. And so I was really nervous to get a rescue dog anyway because of that situation. But Bella was like, no, I'm chill. I'll just sleep on the couch when you go out. Anyway, the day of Adam's birthday plans, we had a shit show of a day. This is last year. So when I tell you what happened this year, you're gonna laugh because you're like, poor boy's fucking birthday is cursed. Last year, we I'd booked us like a paint and sip class because Adam had mentioned that that's something he'd wanted to do. So I thought, perfect, that's such a fun, cute birthday idea. And so I'd booked this class, read the time wrong on the email. And so I was arriving at the class thinking, oh, we'll maybe be 10 minutes late. We were like half an hour late. And if you're doing a paint and sip class, it's like, what, 2 hours? So you've not got that much time to actually like finish the painting if you end up there late. And the reason we were late is because I drove into town. And at this point, Adam's mum and dad were looking after the dogs. So that was all sorted. But I'll come back to the Bella thing later because you'll understand. So we were really late to the paint and sip class because I'd driven into town. And for some reason, I feel like because I don't work 9 to 5 and I don't commute, I forget how bad traffic can be. And in Manchester city centre, traffic is at its worst on a Saturday lunchtime afternoon. Because of course, like people are driving in to go shopping, people are driving in to travel there for the weekend, people are driving in to get there to go to a gig or something that evening. Like every person and their dog is in the city centre on a Saturday. And I thought, oh no, it'll be fine. Like it'll take us about half an hour. It didn't. It took us like 50 minutes, 45 minutes. And so we were late. That was stressful. Like we're rushing in. We've rushed into the class. It was, a lovely thing to do. We had fun, but then we headed home. And we had plans that evening with friends. So one of my friend's hobbies is also an October baby. So he had a 40th birthday that night in town. And because the dogs had been dog sat during the day, because I'd asked Adam's mum and dad to come and sit with them because I knew that they would be on their own in the evening. I thought everything's fine. It was not fine, my friends. It was not fine. So we get back super stressed out. And something I forgot to add, which in hindsight should have been obvious, I should have like took this cue to change the plan. But earlier that day, at the beginning of the day, before Adam's mum and dad got here, before we went out for his birthday plan, before I drove into town and got stuck in traffic for ages, Benji got rushed, like literally ambushed by an off-lead dog in the park. And it was an unfamiliar dog. Like we take him to the same place pretty much once a week, like every weekend. And so you get to know the other dogs there. Like you know the owners there, you recognize the same people, you recognize the same dogs. And so generally we're pretty good because we can be like, oh, that dog can sometimes be a bit grumpy, so like we'll get him away, or that dog is super friendly, so it's fine. But this dog was unfamiliar and it just sprinted up to Benji barked at it. He was on lead. Benji barked at it. He was on the lead. This dog was off lead and just rushed him, pinned him down, was like rolling around with him in the grass, like mouthing him. So not biting, but I think it was just trying to assert its dominance on him and basically put him in his place because he barked at it. So that was really stressful, more so for us than for Benji, because Benji yelped and then they like came and grabbed their dog, literally just said, sorry about that, and then walked on. And we were both just like in an absolute puddle on the floor, just like so stressed, so overcome with like overwhelming emotion because you're thinking, oh my God, is he going to get bit? Are we going to have to go to the vet? He's going to be dripping with blood. Like he was absolutely fine, thank God, because it was a big dog. And so that had happened. And in hindsight, I know that that really stressed them out. But basically, what we ended up doing is heading out for this birthday meal, birthday drinks party. And we looked on our ring camera thinking, oh, let's just check on the dogs. The dogs were having a meltdown. Like Bella, who, like I said, up to this point would just go to sleep on the sofa when we left, was howling the house down. And I could see her on the camera and she was panting. We just saw her on the camera. There was a massive shit in the living room. And I'm laughing about it now. Obviously, at the time, we were both really upset because we knew that it was because they were both just, I think that it was just too much for them that day. Like they'd been through too much. Because at the time of Benji getting ambushed by this dog, Bella was just looking on, like absolutely shaking in her little boots because she was a brand new rescue dog. She didn't even fully trust us yet. And so all of this chaos was happening. Thank God I checked the ring camera when we were at the tram stop, ready to get on the tram to go into town because I just said I can't, I need to go back. And I was so upset that I ended up having like a mini panic attack when we got home because I think I was so overwhelmed at the stress and the rush of the day. And then linking the two, I then felt really guilty. So you can imagine, like, this is Adam's birthday weekend, and this is last year. And so you can fucking bet I was determined. I was determined to make sure it was a good one this year. And so who makes a plan and decides again to drive into town? Me. This bitch does. And I think in my defense, where we were driving to, I'm sure if you drive into a big city, you'll relate. Like some bits of the city, like if you're driving into the outskirt, if you're driving into a specific area, you can kind of get away with it because you're like, well, I know the traffic isn't too bad, and I know that we'll be able to get a parking space here, and then like that'll be fine. So that was my thinking. It was just like a meal and drinks this year, and then we were just gonna head back and like chill and watch a film. The car park was full. We got stuck in major traffic. Adam had to get out when I arrived at the car park so that he could like go into the restaurant and like save our table. I then had to park somewhere else, which is absolutely fine. But I was already stressed thinking, oh, I've driven again. And I know he sat there thinking, why has she driven again? So easy to get public transport or even a taxi. But we have a lovely meal and everything's fine. When I arrive at the restaurant, I look on the ring camera and see Bella eating her wet food pouch. And it's at this point, friends, that I realised that I'd left in my rush to leave the house on time to make sure we could drive into town on time. In my rush to leave, I had left the cupboard under the stairs door open where we keep the dog's food. And there were 5 pouches of wet food stacked on top of one another, literally just in the doorway, like as soon as you open the door. And so the dogs had stolen them, obviously, because they're dogs and that's what they do. And so I showed Adam this, and we're like half laughing, half thinking, great, it's going to be a repeat of last year. Because when we came back the last year, there was like piss and shit in the house. And so we were like, let's just forget about it. We had a lovely meal. We had a really nice drink afterwards in a bar. We got stuck in even worse traffic than before. So we both got back to the house, like overstimulated. I think we'd even had a bit of a tiff in the car because we were both really grumpy and overstimulated. And I felt guilty because I decided to drive. I felt guilty because it was his birthday weekend and I had not set it up in a way that was fun and relaxing for everyone. And then I think he was just frustrated about the traffic, probably thinking, why the hell is she drove? So we get back to the house, and guess what? There's piss and shit everywhere again. And this is Adam's birthday again. And I'm laughing about it now, but I was so upset because I love birthdays and I always try so hard to make a plan and like make it a surprise and like That poor boy's birthday weekend has just been cursed 2 years in a row by Bella pissing and shitting all over the house, it seems. So I had to share that to hopefully give someone a laugh because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. The irony is that on Adam's 30th birthday, so he's 32 this year, last year was 31, the sip and paint and more piss and shit and more traffic. But on his 30th birthday, I did take him to Amsterdam as a surprise, and that was an incredible weekend. So I feel like I've got to pull the bag out next October with something big like that to make up for these two birthdays. It's so bad. The poor man. So the next day, just to end this story on a good note, the next day, like we were both just so like, ugh. I woke up the next day and I was like, it's your birthday again today. It's your birthday weekend still. And I think I made us breakfast. We ate breakfast together, and then I was like, I've thought of some ideas. Let's go for a Sunday roast. And this is something we talk about doing all the time. And like a Sunday lunch, we always romanticize it in our head, but we never actually do it. We always end up spending Sunday in. If we go out to eat, it's generally on a Saturday. And so I was like, we're going for a pub lunch. We're going to take the dogs with us and it's going to be lovely. And it was. And it definitely, like, I managed to claw back some points. I'd not quite conceded. I was still in the loss, but I was managing to claw back some points in the game. So that is Adam's birthday weekend and what a mess it was. And if you have any funny stories like this about you failing in such random ways when it's your partner's birthday, please share with me, both to make me smile, but also to make me feel better about what has been two cursed birthdays for the poor boy. So, on a deeper note, on a more serious note, let's talk about this identity shift that I have been through this year. And this really relates to the episode, not last episode, but the episode before that. So, in that episode, I'm talking about changes I've made in my business this year and the way that I work, the way that I sell my programs, how you can work with me has shifted. And so I'm sharing more details in that episode, and I recommend you listen to that. If you are curious, if you are also a business owner and you enjoy listening in on these types of things, or if you're considering working together in the next few months, and there's some important updates in there. But with that, the business changes I've made this year have come off the back of me changing, of me wanting something different. And what I've realized is the journey I've been on over the past few years, where I've really deepened my own healing. And I've really been on the journey that I now take clients on. And that's so important for me is to know that like every tool I share with a client, either in a program or in my one-to-one coaching, every tool I teach them or share with them, every, theme we can cover in terms of their healing, in terms of their personal growth, their leadership, I have held myself through as well. And what I realized is that over the past 2 or 3 years, what's been happening beneath the surface on a really beautiful and subtle level is my entire nervous system has rewired itself to peace. And I could almost cry saying that because I have been that girl who spent most of her life like stressed out, overwhelmed, in a rush, putting a ton weight of pressure on her shoulders to be the best or to be perfect or to strive for more, more, more. And some of you will know when I was in the depths, like the underbelly of my healing work, doing a lot of inner child healing a few years ago, I would say probably at this point, 3 years ago, I was learning that the the identity I'd built up for myself as this ambitious woman, I was really coming to terms with where did that ambition come from? And I had to do a lot of healing work around where my identity had been created from a place of seeking external validation, seeking to make people proud of me or to be accepted, to be loved essentially. And that is the wild thing about our ego. Ego is not something to be shamed or to be afraid of. Think of your ego as like the bouncer between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. Because under the surface of you, your unconscious, that houses everything about you. Like 95% of your reality is created from your unconscious mind because it houses your belief systems, what you value, the personality that you display. It is shaped like everything in your upbringing, how you've been brought up to think, to believe, to your worldview, how you see the world and how you see yourself. Your ego is protecting all of that. And your ego is the thing that makes you present a certain version of yourself to the world. And so there's nothing inherently wrong with that because your ego wants you to be loved, it wants you to be accepted. And of course, when we go through healing work, we start to unpick these things, we start to analyze them or identify them. We start to heal the parts of us that come from more of a wounded place and less of an authentic place. And there was a time, I would say 2 years ago, where I really questioned whether I was ambitious and hardworking and high achieving and all of these things because I genuinely wanted to be, or because I thought I should be, to be liked, to be accepted, to be admired. And I, for a period of like 3 months, I would say at least, questioned like my entire business, basically, my entire career choice. And I did a 180 and then I came back around for a full 360 transformation because I went from what the fuck is this industry? Like, why am I, should I be doing this? Is this meant for me? Should I leave this behind? All the way back around to no, I genuinely desire this. This is genuinely, authentically part of who I am and something I love and something I want. And I want to do it my way. And what I've realized is that having that, it's like that was a point of realization. And that was the catalyst that has sparked all of these subtle and not so subtle changes that I've made, both internally in terms of my own personal work, and then of course externally in terms of how I run my business. And when I got the download earlier this year to close down Next Level U and then begin the Light Up Level Up Collective, which sparked this whole new entire business model in terms of being an evergreen open enrollment business online rather than a launch-based business, like an open and closed door type business and coach and, online service provider. That was the that was the almost like the final straw in a way. not in a negative way, in a positive way, because that was the real, like, oh, I'm home now kind of moment. Like, oh, this is it. This is the evolution. This is bringing the internal and the external into harmony together. Because there's a really weird point of limbo that you end up in when you've healed certain parts of yourself or you've come to terms with certain elements of your belief system and your values. You've shifted so much internally, and yet externally things haven't shifted yet. It happens in healing work and personal development. It happens in manifestation. It happens in success. You shift internally and you might still be in that limbo, like waiting period for the promotion or for me, it was like the changes in my business. But what I realized just a few weeks ago is that it's happened. Like the shift has happened. I am now someone who prioritizes peace over everything. I value my personal life more than I value my work. And it's like I've said that and I've consciously thought that and I've known that I deep down believe that. But there's a difference between working towards something and being like, holy shit, it's happening, it's here. Like it is very real and tangible. And so again, this this panic set in a few weeks ago because it was like, whoa, that ego in me went from all of a sudden almost like me feeling like the internal shifts are happening behind the scenes, but then externally, the ego felt comfortable. My ego felt comfortable being like, yeah, but I'm still this, I'm still that, I'm still, I still want massive, more, 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 this. It was like that illusion had been shattered because all of a sudden I'd taken baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step. And then the internal shifts that I'd made in myself match my reality. And it is a head fork when you've been through a period of change and you have changed as a person. You have changed like so much internally and you've come to terms with so much. Because, like I said, I realized that no, it's not that like I genuinely don't care and I genuinely want to do this work and I love my business and I love I love achieving and I love growing and I love bringing communities of women together and I love the heart-led like oh just my heart could burst out of my chest when I have those breakthrough moments with clients, whether it be on a one-to-one session or on a group call. I love that. I thrive off it. I love to hold space and I love running a business. It's just no way that version of success in doing that looks totally different because it's now working a lot smarter and not as hard. It's being really slow, like being really intentional and slowing down when I need to. It's quality over quantity. It's creating a marketing plan that fills my creative cup and makes me feel like I'm giving from overflow rather than exhausting myself or selling my soul to kind of model other tactics in the industry that people are using or recommending. It's really checking in with my gut and my intuition on every single choice I'm making. And if it doesn't feel good, and like I say, if it costs me peace, if it makes me feel like pressure rather than pleasure, like I don't want to do it. And it is scary in so many ways to not like I say, I've come to terms with that. But then to be out here publicly saying that, that feels scary. Because like I said, my comfort zone for all of my life has been the girl who is always busy. Even the way loved ones, right? Friends, family members mirror back to me, wow, you're smashing it. You look like you're doing so well at the moment. You look so busy, like amazing. I've always been that person who is seen to be busy, to be pushing, to be hustling, to be creating more, 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 onto the next thing, onto the next thing. And so to have created an entirely different setup and reality is one thing. And I felt really fucking good about that behind the scenes. And I've certainly felt that shift and shared that shift with clients, in private spaces, like inside of my programs. But to be publicly, and even the way that's going to shift how my loved ones see me, it feels jarring. I'm not going to lie. Like my nervous system is having to expand to hold that, to be seen in that way. And I wanted to share that because it is so important for other women listening who are going through that same shift. And we have these conversations inside the Light Up Level Up Collective all the time. You might feel like the way you've built your business or the way you've built up in your career. Yes, you love it. Yes, you want to continue doing it. But you recognize that you've created certain elements of it or you show up in a certain way, not because that's authentic to you, but because it's pleasing other people or it's it's unconsciously bringing you more praise. That example of people saying, wow, you look so busy, that is unconsciously something my body and mind like sought out before. What wanted to be seen in that way. My ego, that bouncer, wanted people to see me in that way. And so the ego naturally is going to think, well, what will they think now if they see me working less, or they see me working shorter hours in the day, or if they see me shock horror working only 4 days a week or only 3 days a week, shock horror. Oh my God, will they think I don't will they think I'm not ambitious any will they think I'm not as ambitious, or will they think, I'm not as successful? It's like the ego starts going, right? And there is nothing that there is nothing that I can't handle in terms of all of that. And I'm holding myself through that. And it's almost so unconscious at this point that I'm like, I can't remember. I almost can't remember how it feels to worry what people think. But clearly, there's a very deep, primal, unconscious part of me in this sense that does. And that's okay because I'm human and I've been through a lot of change in the past year alone, let alone the past few years, as this has all been like bedding in. And so if you're at this precipice where you feel like, yeah, the way that I've built myself up in my career or the way I've set up my business, it's like my people pleasing or my need for external validation or my addiction to hard work, my addiction to busyness. I need to do a whole podcast on that. That has like seeped into how I work. It's seeped into the choices I've made and how I've set things up. And now I want to unpack and undo and kind of reshape some of that if that is how you're feeling, I need you to know that you get to have that, you get to do that. And I've been there. I'm in the trenches there, and I'm supporting clients with this week in, week out. There are very practical things that I can support you with when it comes to setting your week up, setting your working life up in order for you to thrive, and then how to actually implement those changes. But then there's also clearly so much energy work, so much emotional work involved in terms of reshaping your identity. And what I'm realizing is that I've entered, I'm in it. I've entered my feminine leadership era. And that means so much to me because that is now the evolution of my work anyway, is helping women in leadership roles, women who are wanting to create wild success in their career and still have this beautiful, juicy, intimate personal life and relationship. And so to be living in integrity with that message, because I can say, my hand on heart, I've been there and I'm practicing that and I'm choosing that life every day. That feels really good to say. So thank you for listening. We did a complete switcheroo. We went from like the craziest, daftest story about Adam's birthday to this super deep and personal share. But that's the nature of these life update episodes. I fucking love them. I love recording them. And even like the way things have shifted for me over the past couple months, I was saying to my coach the other week, I'm really excited to get back in a flow with my podcast episodes again. Because for the past few months, because of the changes I've been implementing behind the scenes to kind of set up this new way of running the business, I've had to do like an Instagram live and then upload it as a podcast episode. And I love doing that and I'll continue to do that. But there's something different in the energy of sitting and recording a podcast episode and knowing it is going on my podcast. And I'm not on an Instagram live speaking to Instagram, but also speaking to you ladies listening. There's something different in the energy of that. There's something more relaxed for me even though it's still on video. It's weird, but I will still be uploading Instagram lives. I'm planning on doing them short and sweet. And so what I might do is either have them for a week when I need a week off from recording a big episode, or uploading them as like bonus episodes on a Friday and just toying with what feels right. So thank you for listening. If you resonate with anything I've shared in this last portion, especially, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out and DM me on Instagram. Share your takeaway or your light bulb moment. Maybe you've realized something about the way you work. And if you're curious about working together on this shift for yourself, that is exactly what I can help you with inside of the collective or one-to-one coaching, depending on what kind of support you would like. So DM me the word success on Instagram and we can chat more about your leadership role right now, where you're at, what your goals are, all of that juicy stuff. And then we can chat about next steps in terms of working together. So I'll speak to you over on Instagram. Thank you so much. Make sure you're following or subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen to it so you don't miss the latest episodes. And I will speak to you soon.